our lives are very strange, very strange. You know, Ari and I were talking about it last night. You know, we were talking about Ari's life now. Ari and I went to play pool after I did the Laugh Factory last night. And we were just talking about how Ari's life has just transformed over the last 2 years. He went from being a guy who couldn't get booked anywhere to a guy that is living a dream. Everywhere he goes, he's got packed houses. Yeah. They're all coming out to see him. He's selling out like the DC Improv on a Saturday night, selling out big shows. Wow. They go crazy when he goes on stage. And it's like all of a sudden the world changed and went from sucky to awesome. Yeah. And it's like he just reached some new level of the computer game, and now the entire world that he sees, his world literally is a different world. Yes. Like someone who's unsuccessful, someone who's unfulfilled, someone who's trying to accomplish something but keeps meeting with failure. When that happens over a long period of time, you can develop like a deep despair in the way you view the world. And that's where Ari was just a couple of years ago. And now all of a sudden, he's in this super happy world. Everywhere he goes, people are happy to see him. He's got a big smile on his face. He's fun to hang around with. He's joking around a lot. Yeah. He's super positive. And he's traveling to all these places and having the time of his life. It's like his world is the world is a different place now.
Yeah, this is why I love the fucking multiverse theory. I love the idea that we exist in a place where every single possible event is happening at once. Everything that could happen is happening. It's all happening in one great eternal burst of happeningness, and that you can shift yourself from different nodes of where you are now to more desirable nodes of the multiverse, to places that you want to be. And that's what goals are. You know, having a goal is a form of visualizing the specific node of the multiverse that you would like to be existing in, and the contrast between that place and where we currently are. And it's like a grappling hook that you're throwing through infinity, and it lands at this place that you can visualize, and then you kind of pull yourself to that place. These fucking movements through the multiverse, as you move towards what you want to become, I feel like a symptom that you're moving towards this new universe that's possible for everyone is that synchronicities start happening. In the same way that, like, when you're in a boat, you can see ripples in the water. And when you begin to really focus and move towards a place that you want to be, regardless of whatever the fuck that place is, if you really start working and going in that direction, that's when the juju starts happening. Weird coincidences, strange fucking moments that you consider like, man, the probability of that happening is so incredibly fucking low. There's no way that could happen, and it's quite often absurd. It's novelty. It's like what you're just talking about. Fucking Pokemon, Brian coming out in a Pokemon outfit. This isn't like Tesla having a vision for for alternating current. It's just absurd and silly, but it still fills you with a momentary sense of novelty. This kind of like, wow, this place is pretty fucking cool.
I feel like that happens the more I'm tuned into life correctly. And the multiverse theory, as I've understood it, is also based on, well, one of the operating theories is that every decision that you make, every direction that you go, and every choice that you make literally opens up a completely new universe.
Yes.
I think the government understands that they have a certain amount of power and they don't want to let it go, which is what typically all corrupt people do once they get into a position of control. Yeah. It takes a massive amount of control over your ego to be in a position of power and still be moral and ethical and kind and loving. To be in a position of ultimate control, like if you were in the CIA or you ran the NSA or something like that, to be there and have compassion for all of brotherhood and all of mankind, it's really hard to do. It's really hard. It's way easier to be a corrupt cunt and just sort of control shit.
Sure.
But it is possible. It is possible. If it's possible for any one person to be moral and ethical and loving and kind and still be a powerful person and still be a strong and accomplished person, it is possible to be that. So it's possible to run a government that's like that too. It's just they have to understand what a massive position they're in, instead of thinking, well, this is what makes life easier, this is what makes our job easier, this is what makes it easier to clamp down on terror. Yeah. Instead of looking at it that way, if they just looked at it like literally in what is best for mankind.
Yes. That's it, man.
It can be done.
Totally.
It can be done. And I think that even thinking along those lines helps to change the world. Like, it sounds like totally hokey, but I think that having this conversation and knowing this conversation is going to easily reach 1 million people, several million people probably over the course of, the next few months.
Yeah.
This conversation is going to enter, it's going to be data that enters into certain people's minds. And that's the kind of thoughts that we need. We need an understanding that, yes, government is important. Yes, police are important because people are imperfect and they need also to be protected from themselves. They need to be stopped when they try to drunk drive.
Yeah.
They need to, we need someone who can protect people from people that are bullies and people that fuck up and let their emotions take control of themselves. We absolutely need that. But we also need a very strong moral backbone to this country that we're completely missing.
And we need our eyes, our mental eyes, and our spiritual eyes moved in the direction of...
We need a philosophy.
Yeah, a story.
Not just laws.
And also, but there's also the story of the government, the narrative of the government, the narrative of the news, the narrative of media that's giving out information is inevitably a terrible, catastrophic narrative, and it will always be. Whenever you turn on the fucking news, it's a disaster. And I'm not just talking fucking Frankenstein. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about, oh God, if you believe the news, then you believe all pit bulls are evil. You believe pit bulls have climbed out of some fucking volcano in hell and are just ravaging the world, chewing the faces off senior citizens. If you believe the fucking news, you believe that you would have believed the Africanized bees were coming, communists are attacking, Al-Qaeda's marching into our streets to destroy us, Satanists are molesting our fucking kids, and that all politics is corrupt and evil, and that the entire planet is on the verge of some ecological catastrophe.
Well, the real issue is that there's too many people. There's 300 million people in this country alone. You cannot concentrate in 1 hour on the news without getting an insane amount of negative shit, because you're dealing with individual acts over 300 million people.
It. So this is exactly. So that's where that's where they are directing the consciousness and the attention of all of humanity into these basically anomalies. And if you look at the amount of people right now and the small amount of catastrophe that's happening compared to how many of us there are, it's a fucking miracle every day.
Of course.
It's incredible.
We've talked about this 100 times, that this is a way safer time than there's ever been in human history.
Yeah.
But when you look at people like trying to pass laws to take away rights, you would think that there's rioting in the streets and that the world is falling apart.
Right.
So what is that connection? Like, why is it that with this time where really things have never been better for the human race, why is there still this overwhelming need to crack down further and further on rights and liberties and control the population more and more North Korea style? Why is that?
Well, I mean, I think that it's a trite thing to say, but it's you follow the money. And so I think that if you look and see that, 48% of people in the prisons are it's drug-related offenses. If you see the people who are making money off of these laws, I mean, God knows how much money the fucking TSA makes selling their crazy gear that they have. That's a big fucking business, So I think it's just some people tend to profit off of the mass perception that we are existing in a sort of hell dimension. And there's people who figured out a way to suckle at those black satanic teats and extract money from it that they use for their own sense gratification, their own selfishness.
And it's a tiny amount of people, really.
Yeah.
Statistically speaking, if you look at the greater number of human beings in this country, 300 million people, how many of them are sucking the blood out of the earth? Is it even 1,000? Is it even 1,000 industrialists and bankers that are responsible for wielding that kind of power? And how many of them are Masons, Duncan Trussell?
They're all Masons, brother Joe. But here's the thing, man. I think that the stuff that we kind of hit upon when we have these conversations, I think that kind of stuff is if people's eyes start turning in the direction of the idea, as absurd and quixotic as it might sound, that you can, through a combination of discipline and visualization, create a positivity singularity in your life where your very being and everything around you can, like, almost like being in an elevator going up a few floors into paradise, that can happen. Where suddenly you discard, like a snake shedding its skin, all the foulness of your of the fear calcifications that have formed around your life in the form of bad relationships, shitty friends, a negative outlook. You can, like, drop all that and suddenly experience some version of rebirth. You know, this is why the Christian idea of being born again is a beautiful notion. That's a crazy idea to play around with. The idea that you can renew and rejuvenate your life completely if you just let go of fear and turn your fucking eyes away from the ghost story that these hell buzzards are spoon feeding us so that they can sell droids and fucking Fords. And if you start turning away from that and putting your focus on this idea, you're not always going to be perfect. I mean, you're not going to be suddenly in the Garden of Eden.
The people who need to change their idea are the people that are actually doing that, not the people that are, like, buying into it. It's way more important to have the people that are in control change their idea. So how the fuck do you get to the lizards?
Well, to get to the fucking lizards, man, I think that what would have to happen would be a exponential shift in the consciousness and the predilections of the majority of people on Earth, so that people start, you know, playing around with some of this fucking awesome information that's floating out there and see if you can make yourself happy.
I mean, a person is directly, I mean, who you are is directly related to how other people feel about you when you're around. You know, that is a big part of who you are as a human, is how you interact with the rest of the species.
Man, when people are cunts, if you really consider why people are cunts, my theory on it is that they don't understand how important they are. They think they're not important. Usually when someone's being a cunt,
it's easy to be a cunt.
But it's because you're not. This is something.
It's easy to lash out.
When Hancock came on my podcast, he talked about ayahuasca and slurping ayahuasca, and how one of the effects was that it made you experience the way you made people throughout your life feel. You know, like they talk about the life review when you go into the light and that shit. It's like, they say that I've talked to people who've, like, died and come back, and they say it's not that you, like, watch a video of your life. It's that you literally see the way that you made the people around you feel. You feel that. You feel the way you made the people around you feel. And I think that most people who are dicks, they don't think they're important enough to induce any kind of feeling in the people around them. They don't even think that they're important enough to make someone feel like shit necessarily.
I don't agree with that at all. I don't think that's what's going on at all. I think they're just unhappy and they lash out. I think that's what being a dick is. It's a projection thing. They are trying to hurt people's feelings, for sure. When someone's being an asshole, they want to have a reaction just to let them know that they're important. I don't think that it's not that they don't feel like they're important. I think their ego's out of control, which is just the opposite of not feeling that they're important. Their importance is more important than anything else in the world. That's why they're willing to lash out at people.
You know, man, I don't want to think that way. Because
but it's an ego issue.
Here's what I like to think. Speaking like the node of the multiverse I want to exist in. I want to exist in this node of the multiverse where underneath all the ego calcification